Hi everyone, it's Tom with the LEC preview of the final weekend of the 2022 LEC Spring Split. Yes, the final weekend already. Time flies when you're having fun, but it's going to be an exciting one because we have the semifinals and the grand finals awaiting us. And I'll be doing a preview for each of the series and for the finals. Obviously, it will need some speculation, but I will do one for both. For Rogue potentially facing G2 and for Rogue potentially facing Fnatic. But we'll start off with G2 versus Fnatic in the semifinals. A rematch of the upper bracket first round between these two teams, and Fnatic obviously won the first one 3-1. Pretty dominating fashion, I would say. Even though G2 got one game, I would say that overall the games that Fnatic won were so dominant. And a sweep is very unlikely to begin with if teams are sort of in the similar power range, I would say. So not too, surprising that outcome, but I do think that a lot has happened since, because while Fnatic did beat G2 then, they were reverse swept by Rogue in the upper bracket semifinals in last week during the second round, while G2 managed to 3-0 both Vitality and Misfits. So what does that mean? It does mean that G2 has that momentum going, they have that faith, they have that confidence, they have the mental edge of saying, hey, we're on a win streak, nothing can stop us. And I know that on paper this doesn't mean anything, but in reality it does. We've seen it before that teams can either suffer from, having mental setbacks, or they can thrive on having mental strength. One of the most famous ones in EU is that Perks, whenever he's in a 1-2 spot in a series, climbs back, because historically, if you look at all the 1-2 spots he's won a ridiculous amount of those series and climbed back, and that is definitely something that affects players and can put them into this comfort zone where they are sharper, they lean on that fictional but at the same time very real pillar. And I do think that is definitely something that G2 needs. Still, if I look at the power level overall, if I look at the games that G2 played, there was just such a big difference between them and Vitality and them and Misfits in terms of skill, in terms of team play, that I find it hard to see that they really learned something, that they really were pushed by those teams, because it was kind of a walk in the park for them. And I still think that G2 has a lot of trouble with closing out games against stronger opponents, and I don't see that changing. Now, Fnatic, yes, the loss against Rogue is sour, it's bitter, it's, oh my god, being reverse swept, and in the fashion as well, because the final 3 games Rogue played, Fnatic was stomped, absolutely dominated, and Fnatic had no say in those games. And even in the 2 games that they played and won before, Rogue's mid game was pretty solid, and they actually held on in the game. They had no business actually being still so competitive in the games after Fnatic had such a clean early game. Now, how is Fnatic's mental? That is very important. I do think that this is a team that will need some time to reset after a reverse sweep. I think a player like Upset and a player like Razork will be affected by something like this. But the question is this long enough? Because at the same time, you have these players who have for a long time not won. Upset and Razork haven't won a title, so they're used to defeat. So maybe they have this coping mechanism. It's all about the team environment, and I did an interview with Yamato, which you can find on my channel, where we talk about this and resetting that. And Yamato is a coach that's very good at lifting up his players and boosting their egos and getting them back on the horse mentally. So I think that Fnatic heading into the series will have that thing in the back of their minds, like, man, we lost. And G2 will have the thing, oh, we're on a win streak. But in the end, I think it's only going to bring them a bit closer together, because I do think that Fnatic overall is still the cleaner team. And they have a strong early game. In the mid game, it's, they showed some flaws against Rogue. But I don't think G2 is a team that's going to capitalize on this a lot. And Fnatic has the closing out power, the power to close the series out. Whereas G2 still lacks that against strong opponents. As I said, Vitality and Misfits weren't strong opponents. One factor I do want to mention is the crowd, because the crowd is going to be back for this weekend, and I think that a player like Caps and a player like Jankos, they really thrive playing in front of a crowd. We've seen it in the past, and actually posted a tweet on my Twitter account saying it has been 881 days since Caps last played mid lane in front of a crowd, and that was during the finals of 2019 Worlds in Paris, because in 2020 spring, the first 7 weeks, where there was still a crowd during that split before the COVID shutdown, Caps played bot lane in that split. So it's been a long time since he's played mid lane in front of a crowd, and he is a player that thrives on it. Upset historically is one of the players who struggled when playing in front of a crowd. It's the nerves got to him, and over the years, obviously, both of these players have developed, both of them have changed, but it will be interesting to see how this develops. Overall, if I look at the teams, I think it's going to be a 3-2 for Fnatic. I think that G2 has come a bit closer. I think they have developed a bit more and come closer to Fnatic's level, and I do think that Fnatic has exposed a lot in their 5 games during against Rogue, even though they played obviously the Twisted Fate 3 times in a row. I do think in terms of team play, in terms of the flaws, I think they've exposed a lot, and that G2 can use to their advantage. So I think it's going to be a close one. I hope it's going to be a close one, because it's the first series back in front of a crowd since 2020 spring. It's G2 versus Fnatic. It's always high stakes, always hype. So I'm just hoping for a banger with that one. And then we have the grand finals, and it's going to be Rogue. So let's talk about Rogue first, and then their potential opponents. Rogue. Everybody expected Rogue to not be where they are right now, if that makes any sense, because in the off-season, they sold Inspire to Evil Genius. Hansama left to go join Team Liquid, and those were the 2 best players. And Malrang came in place, Comp came in place, and it's kind of, okay, you're getting a sub from Damwon. Okay, Damwon is good, but it's still a substitute player. And you get a player who was benched last year, and everybody was like, okay, well, Rogue is kind of a downgrade. What are you doing? But this Rogue has shown that how important team environment is, because last year, when they were losing, team environment would grow sour and they would choke. But this time around, they're 2-0 down against Fnatic in the semifinals, and they actually managed to turn around. It's a big pivot for them. And I think one of the most important changes, I did an interview with Comp, which you can find on my Twitter, which is below, but I'll also link it in the video description. We spoke about this, and he said 2-0 down. He was, he wasn't feeling any of the pressure. He wasn't feeling negative. He was actually very happy with how the series went and how he was playing. And I think that is so important for this team, to have somebody there who's positive. But also, in that interview, he said that it was Larsen who said, hey, you know what? Don't give me Victor. Give me something fun, please. And he played Silas 3 times very successfully, dominated on the champion, and helped them win that series. And I think that's such a pivotal moment in Larsen's career. It could be if he can repeat it again, because Larsen has always been the guy who's excellent on the control mages, the Victors, the Orianas, things like Azir. He's also been a very good Lucian. But to say something like, listen, let me do this and actually carry with him, it might be a turning point in his career where he can truly let go of what's good for him, what he knows he can play well on, and actually tell his coach as well, like, hey, listen, I'm gonna carry on this one, and actually have that free mindset. It's something that we've seen from the great mid laners in Europe. Humanoid is that factor who said, no, just give me this and I'll carry, and he can. Caps, same thing. Perks, same thing. It's that kind of switch that sets the good players apart from the truly great players. And Larsen has always been phenomenal on the control mages, but for him to make this change, I think it's actually very big, and I'm surprised that not more people are talking about it. But anyway, that's for me, Rogue's resilience is phenomenal, and I do think that heading into the finals, they're clearly a favorite, whoever they're facing. But let's talk about how they would match up against potentially G2. I think Rogue against G2, Rogue is massively favored because G2 is very inconsistent, as I said, in playing clean League of Legends. They have these moments where you can see, okay, this team is playing together. They obviously play heavily through the top lane, but I don't think that's going to be a very big point to lean on for them against Rogue, because Odoamne is super solid. Malrang is probably, you know, Jankos plays a lot for his team, but Malrang does it even better because this guy just sacrifices everything in order for his team to thrive. And I think that is a strategy that will fall flat on its face from G2 side, I mean, not Rogue side, if they try that against Rogue playing through top side, because it's just not going to work. I think player for player, Rogue has the better performing players in this match, hypothetically. So that is interesting for me to see, because that's not something you would naturally associate, I think, with these two teams, where you have Caps, you have Jankos, Broken Blade. I even voted Broken Blade as the best top laner from the split during the regular split, but I have to say, and obviously in these playoffs he's been phenomenal, but I'm more of looking at it, okay, how are they going to play in a team environment, and how is it going to fit in the team strategy? And I think that Odoamne can hold his own very well against Broken Blade, and I don't think that that's something that G2 can really capitalize on. So if those two play against each other, maybe G2 walks away with one game, but overall, I think Rogue's bot lane is super stable, super flexible. Larsen is the better mid laner at the moment. Caps obviously has this super high peaks he can ascend to, but has been very inconsistent in it. Maybe G2 will make it something happen one game, but in that case, I'm predicting a 3-1 for Rogue. And then we have obviously the potential of Rogue versus Fnatic. The outcome, I think, is actually going to happen. So, Rogue did show a lot during the series against Fnatic. Fnatic was kind of stoic, kind of stubborn in running Twisted Faith 3 times in a row without betting silence, even though Larsen was finding a lot of success on it. And Yamato, in the interview I did with him, was right. There are more variables to it than just picking Twisted Fate. That's fine, but they really need to change something up for it. I think Rogue, heading into the series against Fnatic, you know, if they are able to reverse sweep and don't have that mental block against Fnatic when 0-2 down, I don't see them having any mental block heading into the series against Fnatic with a 0-0 score now, knowing that they have reverse swept them. So I think Rogue is going to be much more experimental, much more open to pivoting with drafts, whereas Fnatic, I'm not so sure if they will be able to make that change. I think Razork is somebody who really showed his weaknesses in the series against Rogue. Once he was off the Volibear, he very much struggled to have any say in the game. And I think that you just cannot afford to do that. So I think Rogue's just going to ban Volibear, and then just let's see what Fnatic does, and then they will answer with whatever they can. I also think that in this series in particular, Red side is going to be very strong, because Trimby always loves to have the final counter pick support, which he can adjust to Fnatic's strategy, and he is such a flexible support player. I still think it's going to be, you know, not a sweep. I don't think so, because obviously when you play and when you lose, you can choose sides, and I hopefully for now Fnatic knows, okay, we should pick red side instead of picking blue side 3 times in a row. So yeah, I think oh wait, they did 2 sides in a row anyway, but they should deny Rogue the opportunity of last picking that support. But anyway, I do think that this series is going to be Rogue favorite as well. I think Rogue is going to win it 3-1. And that's not to say that I think Fnatic and G2 are on the same level. I just think that Rogue is gonna be able to capitalize more on the flaws that they saw from Fnatic and have that mental advantage. I can also see a 3-2 happen where it's just red side, red side, red side, red side, red side wins. And that's going to be in Rogue's favor because they're in the upper bracket, they're the higher seed, they should have side selection. So I'm assuming that they pick red side to start the series with. Anyway, those are my thoughts for the final weekend of the LEC Spring Split. Let me know in the comments below what you think and who you think will win. I'm going to be in the studio again. It's going to be very exciting with the crowd. If you're there per any chance and want to say hi, please come up and say hello. I'd love to chat with you if I have the time, obviously, because I also need to make notes and run around and keep an eye on the game. So I'm prepared for the interviews afterwards. But anyway, I'm very much looking forward to it. And stay tuned on this channel for more content.